Today we're diving into a foundational idea in economics. But here's the twist. Its origin isn't where you think. It's not from some modern economist or even a famous European philosopher. Nope. It comes from a text written 2,000 years ago by a historian in ancient China.
So let me ask you something. When you hear that famous phrase, the invisible hand, the idea that a market kind of magically regulates itself through everyone just doing their own thing, who pops into your head? For pretty much everyone, it's Adam Smith, right? And that makes sense. But what if I told you the real answer is older? Like almost 2,000 years older?
Yeah, take a look at this. On the left, you've got Adam Smith publishing his game-changing Wealth of Nations in 1776. But way over on the right, there's Sima Qian, who wrote about a remarkably similar concept in his Records of the Grand Historian way back around 100 BCE. We're talking about a gap of nearly 2 millennia. It's just wild.
So let's really get into this idea that was so far ahead of its time. And to truly appreciate just how radical it was, we need to understand the world it came from, a world where celebrating commerce was basically unthinkable. Okay, so you've got to picture this. In Han Dynasty China, the official Confucian way of thinking set up this really rigid social ladder. You had the scholars and officials at the top, then farmers, then artisans. And guess who was at the very bottom? Merchants. Yeah, the people who actually made money. It was seen as this kind of dirty, dishonorable job.
But into this world of strict moral codes comes this one guy who just saw things differently. He wasn't so interested in how the world should work according to tradition. He was obsessed with how it actually worked.
And that man was Sima Qian. His official title was the Grand Historian, and his job was to write down the entire history of China. But where most historians of his time were writing what amounted to moral lessons, Sima Qian was a hardcore realist. He was determined to document the messy, complicated, and real workings of the world around him.
This timeline just really drives the point home. Sima Qian is writing his stuff around 100 BCE. That's before the Roman Empire even hit its peak, hundreds of years before it fell. And it's a staggering 1,800 years before Adam Smith was even born. This idea wasn't just old, it was truly ancient.
So what was this mind-blowing idea? Well, at its core, Sima Qian was arguing that economics isn't about morality or government rules. No, he saw it as a fundamental law of nature, something that flows with the same unstoppable force as water running downhill.
He laid all this out in a totally groundbreaking chapter of his history called The Biographies of Moneymakers. And his argument was shockingly simple. People creating and pursuing wealth is a natural, spontaneous thing. You don't need the government to tell people to produce stuff or trade it. They just do it instinctively.
And this quote just gets right to the heart of it. He wasn't judging anyone. He was just stating a fact as he saw it. The whole world swarms for profit. The whole world bustles for profit. To him, this wasn't some sign of moral failure. It was just the truth about people. And this is the real kicker. For Sima Qian, wanting a better life, wanting to make a profit, that wasn't a character flaw. It was a basic human instinct, just like being hungry or thirsty. And what's more, it was the very engine that made society run, that got goods and services made and moved to where people needed them.
Now you can imagine, this point of view wasn't just some interesting observation. It was a direct challenge to the entire establishment. By saying this was just human nature, Sima Qian was basically questioning the whole purpose of the government and the moral fabric of his society.
He even created a ranking system for government based on this idea. The absolute best government, it just gets out of the way. It follows the natural trend. From there, things get progressively worse as the government meddles more and more, until you hit rock bottom, when the state actually starts competing with its own citizens for profit. I mean, this is an incredibly early argument for laissez-faire economics.
This table just lays out how revolutionary his thinking was. On every single major issue, how you see merchants, what the government should do, what people are even like, Sima Qian's view was the polar opposite of the official Confucian ideal. This wasn't just a new idea, it was a completely different way of seeing the world.
So what's the point of all this for us today? Why should we care about what some historian wrote in a 2,000-year-old book? Well, because Sima Qian's insights about people and markets are absolutely timeless.
Let's break down the big takeaways here. First, everyone chasing their own self-interest isn't necessarily chaos. It can actually create a complex, working system all on its own. Second, that drive for a better life isn't something bad that we need to crush. It's a powerful force of nature. And finally, his work suggests that maybe, just maybe, the best way to govern an economy is to, well, govern it as little as possible.
When you put it all together, what Sima Qian shows us is that the basic rules of market economics, supply and demand, the profit motive, spontaneous order, they aren't some modern invention of the West. They might be something much deeper, something that's just a fundamental cross-cultural part of human nature itself.
And that leaves us with one heck of a question to chew on. If Sima Qian was right, if the pursuit of profit is really as powerful and as natural as gravity, can we ever truly control it with laws or morals? Or will it always, in the end, find a way to flow?